Okay, so we have our blessing for Lupercalia. The Morgan and Hecate helped me write this. This isn't a holiday I typically celebrate, but somebody actually requested a blessing for it, so we wrote one. You're going to start with a half teaspoon of elderflower, and then you're going to use a fourth teaspoon of cayenne pepper. You're going to use a half teaspoon of mugwort, 1/2 teaspoon of oregano, and then 4 bay leaves. Okay. Now, the bay leaves, they actually have runes written on them. So the runes are Pethro, Kenaz, Jera, and Nathes. And you're just going to stick them in there one after a time after the fire is lit. If you are wondering what it is that I had in there prior to putting the herbs, I just added some rubbing alcohol, 91% proof, I think, rubbing alcohol. Probably too much, but I'm a little bit extra, so it's fine. It works. I like it. I played around a lot with different using different mediums to burn blessings, and I like using the rubbing alcohol because it burns it at such a high heat. There tends to be less smoke, which is really good for people. It's not something that I really have to worry about, but like my son, if he were to do a blessing at his house, it needs to get hot enough where there isn't a ton of smoke, because he lives in an apartment and he has to think of other people. We live in a house. And if you've ever seen me make gluten-free pitas, we don't mind a little bit of smokiness. All right, so I wanted to go ahead and get on here and show you the runes written that were written down on the bay leaves. Okay, so the first one is Perthro, and I'm trying to do it in the camera, so forgive me. All right, and this stands for revelation. And then we have Kenaz, which stands for illumination. And then we have Jera, which stands for growth. And then we have Nathes, and that stands for have patience. Okay, now you might be asking yourself, Christy, you've done these before and they had different meanings, and that's true. They have, just like with tarot cards, there's multiple meanings, there's multiple definitions, and that's why when you are creating your blessing or your spell, you want to make sure that you're putting intention into what you're writing, because having, well, just to give you an example. So this is Isa. It can stand for coldness. It can stand for family. It stands for a couple other things, right? And something else, another way that we've used Nathes is we've used it. The last blessing I showed, it stood for two different. We did it twice. It was for that. Ooh, do you have angry babies? So Nathes, in the cord cutting we did, it stood for fate. And then it also stood for, oops, I'm not even spelling it right. Restriction. I don't know if I spelled that right. But in this specific meaning, the meaning that we would be using it for today is have patience. Okay. So as I was telling you guys yesterday when I was doing the reading, the holiday blessing that I did yesterday, and that the video, I'm posting it today on the 16th, technically the day after, is Lupercalia. So it's Lupercalia. And it comes from ancient Rome. It means wolf, and it's to celebrate Romulus and Remus. Romulus and Remus are part of Roman mythology. So they're twin brothers, and their story tells of the events that led to the founding city of Rome and the Roman kingdom by Romulus. And then, and this was after it's called what is it called? Fratricide? When you, is that when you kill a sibling or when you kill a brother or when you kill a twin? I just Googled. Fun fact. It is when you kill one's brother or sister. That's dark. We're all learning new things today. So, what happened is a she-wolf found the twins when they were babies, and she raised them until a farmer and his wife found them, and then raised them as farmers. And if you want a little bit of backstory on that, well, I guess we can dive a little bit deeper. King Amulus ordered them to be killed, and they were abandoned by the bank of the river Tibur to die. And then the god of boy oh boy, the god Tiberinus, he's the father of the river, helped save them and carried them like down the way to where Rome would later be. I think that's interesting. Anyway, so this blessing, Lupercalia, it's pretty wild. So anyway, so where are we going with this? We're kind of all over the place. Reel it back in, Christy. So it's pretty wild, the way that it works. So what they do is they meet, and you're probably wondering who they is. Well, they would be two different factions or two different groups of priests. Priests that followed Romulus and priests that followed Remus. And they would go down to a cave called Lupercal Cave, okay, where they would sacrifice a dog and they would sacrifice some goats, and then they would create whips out of the hide. They would get down, and I'm butchering it a little bit just because I'm not doing anything fun here. I don't want to take forever with this. So I'm just butchering it a little bit to kind of give you the cliff notes. So what they would do is they would go ahead and they would like turn the strips of hide into like whips, and then they would run down the streets naked, and they'd whip people with them. Gross, right? But it was a festival of fertility and prosperity. So people between the 13th and 15th century. So people who got whipped with the hide, they were like, oh, that's so great. Now I'm going to be lucky. Like, this is something that they wanted. As a dog owner, it breaks my heart a little bit, which honestly, it's the whole reason why I don't actually celebrate this, because it kind of makes me sad. They also had a feast or like a festival headed at the, I believe, was it the Colosseum? Nope, it wasn't the Colosseum. It was the Comitium. And a comedian is it's an open air public meeting place. And there it was like, I don't know, it was like, it's kind of bloody, kind of violent, very sexually charged, festival. But you know, like I said, it's fertility based, so that makes sense to me. It's pretty wild. But I think there is a way to celebrate it in today's day and age, and kind of form it into something that we want. For me, it's something that was never really necessary. We kind of do special things on Valentine's Day. I do things with the kids. I normally make sugar cookies, and we shape them in the shape of bees, because Saint Valentine, he was the patron saint of bees, and so that was always a good time. So we normally make sugar cookies for that, and we turn those days, because the celebration typically happens between the 13th and the 15th. So Valentine's Day kind of. And I think what they ended up doing is they kind of ended up just putting the Valentine's Day. They're like, oh, we're going to celebrate Valentine's Day right over this holiday, to kind of take away like the paganness of the time. Just kind of like with Christmas and Easter and stuff, they kind of just place new traditions over the old ones, more socially acceptable old ones. So I think if you just, it doesn't matter if this is something that you celebrate, or if you just celebrate Valentine's Day. If you are all about treating it as, as a day for health and fertility, and in my opinion, as always, love, you get to turn it into you get to turn it into whatever you want. But I hope this answers the person who asked for, they actually asked for a blessing for llamas, which is not until summertime. So I'm assuming they meant Lupercalia. So yeah, so we put this together and we did the blessing so you guys could see. And this is something that you can still, you know, it's in the spirit of things. So even though I got it posted a little bit late, if you still wanted to do the blessing, it's definitely not going to hurt. But I did think that it was pretty interesting. You know, I always think it's really interesting whenever you're the history of why they put, you know, why Valentine's is where Valentine's is, or why Easter where Easter is, and like the colors. Red would stand for the blood, for the sacrificial blood, and then, well, it's red and white, right? Because they would put the blood from the sacrifice, they would put it on the priest's heads, and then they would wash it away with goat's milk. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and leave this here. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. I hope you guys made good choices. Maybe next year I will find another way to offer you more information on this in a less boring way. So I will talk about it longer, and we can talk about it longer, and then we can go into a little bit more detail. You guys have a good day. Bye.